Hello, 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 everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to the Flight Sim world. This is Fiberstrike95, and welcome back to our Sunday National Park series. Today we're back at Butte, Montana here today, and we're going to be covering our first national park of the entire series. Yep, and considered by many to be the world's first national park as well. Yes, we're going to be flying at Yellowstone National Park today. So guys, I hope you're all doing well here this morning and prepared for this epic adventure. Of course, if you guys all don't know about Yellowstone, it's truly one of the world's great national parks. Founded back in 1872, and it is really an awe-inspiring park that you should at least visit once in your life. I mean, it's got everything. Canyons, mountains, lakes, rivers, hot springs. You find everything basically in Yellowstone. Amazing park, great wildlife. It's just an epic place. That's where we're going here in Yellowstone today. So guys, I hope you're all having a great weekend so far, of course. And I hope you guys have all had a good weekend. My weekend's going pretty good. I hope to see you all once again soon. So before we get started, I do want to say hello to the chat. We have my moderator, Super Typhon. Good to see you, my dude. I hope you had a good time back in Canada for a bit. The Cabot Trail, that sounds awesome. Yeah, the Cabot Trail is pretty scenic. A lot of people like to go on that trail in that part of Canada. Oh yeah, your aunt was in Yellowstone. That's fantastic to hear. Yellowstone is a place I've been wanting to check out since I was a little kid. So definitely pretty cool. So here's our flight plan for today. If you guys want to get to know about this, the route you would exclamation point route to check it out in the chat. But here's our flight plan for this morning. We're gonna do a simple hop from Butte over to our first stop here at Waterfall Airport, 23 Montana. So pretty simple flight from here to Waterfall. Then from there, we're going to fly from Waterfall Airport. We're going to fly over to past the Canyon Valley into our second stop here at Garner, which is the traditional entrance, the northern entrance to Yellowstone National Park. And then from there, we're actually going to do a loop around the entire national park from here. That's why I put that as a stop. We'll fly around Mammoth Hot Springs for a bit. And yes, we will be doing some landings today. That's why I didn't have my landing monitor turned on. So we're gonna do some landings. So we might land in the hot springs area, the terraces. Then we'll visit. Then we'll go ahead and check out the next part. We'll be traveling through Norris Geyser, the geyser basin of Norris Geyser. Then, of course, we'll be visiting, go through some more of the canyon valleys and such, and make our way over to Old Faithful, Pebble Geyser, and White Dome. Then we'll make our Grand Prismatic Spring. We'll make a landing here, right here, at Grand Prismatic Spring. Briefly fly over Imperial Geyser for a bit. Then make our way over to Old Faithful for another landing at Old Faithful. We'll find an area near the park. Maybe we might catch the geyser erupt. Then from there, we'll fly south to Maven Geyser, Moose Falls, the far south of the park. Then we might go up to Mount Sheridan for a mountainside landing before making our way over to Current Mountain, fly over the lake. Then we make our way over to the Lower Falls for a landing before flying over the Canyon Valley. Make our way over to Mount Washburn for a quick landing or two, and then Devil's Den and Tower Junction. We'll go through all that area and make our way back to Gardner Airport for our last stop. And yes, we will be doing some landings here too. Because now that we can walk out of our plane, we can definitely do it like if we do as a familiar tourist. Pretty cool, huh? So the plane we're taking today is the Patey Draco today. I thought with this being a couple hour stream and all that, I think the Draco would be the best plane for this type of flight today. We're going to be dealing with some altitude, so I think the performance is going to be really good for today. So that's what we're going to take on today's flight. So she's on. So let's talk a little bit about Yellowstone as we get prepared for the air. So we're going to go ahead and take off here. I'm going to keep around 140 knots for this plane. You know, with its performance and all that, I don't think that would be a problem. So the first leg, our altitude for the first leg is going to be around 8,500 feet. So let's go ahead and get her started. Break. Prop. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about our park today. So we're going to cover our national park here today. We're going to be checking out Yellowstone National Park, the first national park of our series, Yellowstone. So what makes Yellowstone such a special park? Well, Yellowstone is actually in Wyoming, but it also extends to Montana and Idaho. It was established by the 42nd U.S. Congress through the Yellowstone National Park Protection Act in 1972 by USS Grant. This is our first national park in the United States, and it might even be the world's first ever national park. The park is known for its wildlife, its many geothermal features, are some of its most famous parts of the national park. It expands an area of over 3,468 square miles with lakes, canyons, rivers, and mountain ranges. Of course, the park's also world renowned for its wildlife. In fact, Yellowstone is the finest megafauna location in the contiguous 48. You can find grizzly bears, cougars, wolves, and free-ranging herds of bison and elk. All live in the national park, of course. All live in the national park. All live in the national park. So the history of Yellowstone National Park will take us to the 8th century. But of course, human history of the park actually began at least 11,000 years ago when Native Americans began to hunt and fish in this area. During the construction of the post office in Gardner, they discovered Obsidian Point dating back to 11,000 years ago. And that Paleo-Indian groups used to live in this area, the Clovis culture. Of course, when Lewis and Clark visited this area back in 1805, they encountered the Nez Perce, Crow, and Shoshone tribes in the region. Of course, this area was part of it, and the first person to explore this area was John Coulter back in 1806. He joined a group of fur trappers, and he observed some of the areas near the park. And he described it in 1809 as a place of fire and brimstone, and most people at the time dismissed it as delirium. And of course, the next 40 years, news reports from mountain men have also employed the same thing, but again, people thought it was a myth. Of course, one big thing that happened was in 1856 exploration, when mountain man Jim Bridger observed boiling springs, mountain water, and mountain glass and rock. Of course, a lot of these reports were ignored. So in 1859, a U.S. Army surveyor did a 2-year survey of this area. He too also surveyed the Yellowstone region. But the first detailed expedition in this area was in 1869 with the Cook-Folsom-Peterson expedition. And they followed the Yellowstone River to Yellowstone Lake. And the members have kept a journal based on information reported. The Parry, Montana residents organized another expedition just a year later. And what they discovered, the park actually matched what all those people have actually been saying about Yellowstone. And eventually, in 1871, after 11 years of failed effort, Ferdinand Hayden explored the region and with government sponsorship. He did another geological survey in 1871, including photographs, which confirmed that the U.S. Congress to protect this region. So in 1872, this area became the first national park of the United States, forming Yellowstone. As he passed the Act of Dedication law that created it. Of course, during the 1770s and 1880s, Native American tribes were actually excluded from the park, which, of course, I mean, it's not surprising considering the U.S. does not have the greatest track record with the natives. And of course, another issue that the park also had to face during this time was also poaching and destruction of natural resources continued until the U.S. Army arrived in this area in 1886, where they built Camp Sheridan to help deal with all the poachers and stuff. That's been a big issue. Of course, a big part about Yellowstone nowadays has been the Conservation Corps in 1933. It was mainly relieved for a lot of young men, played a big role in developing Yellowstone facilities, including reforestation, campground development, trail construction, fire hazard, and firefighting work. And they built the majority of the early visitor centers, campgrounds, and the current system of park roads. Of course, during World War II, tourist travel fell sharply due to the fact that the war happened. Staffing was cut and repairs and facilities had been in disrepair. However, by the 50s, visitation increased a lot more, and in order to accommodate it, they implement Mission 66 to modernize the plant park services. Of course, that being said, and then in 1963, after 7 years of public controversy regarding the forced reduction of elk population, the U.S. Secretary of Interior Stuart Udall appointed an advisory board to collect scientific data to inform future wildlife management. They turned out that the park's polling programs have been ineffective, so they recommended the management of its elk population. Eventually, the way they managed to find that, well, here's what they discovered at the park. In order to control, that as well, of course, Leopold did all that. But of course, one very big thing that happened during this park, of course, there were also wildfires back in 1988 that caused a lot of damage to the park. And it did a lot of damage to the park as well. And they nearly destroyed nearly 793,000 acres of parkland by fires. pretty big problem for having to deal. So we're over here and find this area, of course. So we're going to be heading to our first stop pretty shortly. We're just halfway across to our first stop. So in terms of other events going on, of course, not really much going on for sports events. Louisville City, my soccer club, played today, and they managed to get a 4-2 win over Miami FC. So that keeps us at first. Definitely a pretty nice win for us, of course. And then the Premier League's happened today. The Premier League season finally started today. I watched the Sunderland game yesterday. Sunderland absolutely destroyed West Ham. 3-0 in their first game back in several years. Manchester City won pretty easily yesterday as well, 4-0 on the road to Wolverhampton. So, and then today we've got a couple of games going on today. Chelsea and Crystal Palace. They're currently all tied up. Nottingham Forest is beating Brentford, who I actually picked to be relegated this year. I think they could definitely be relegated. Arsenal and Manchester United, that's a big game today against two very big clubs. That's a very big game as usual. And then, of course, tomorrow's my team, Everton. They're playing tomorrow. So the Toffees are going to be tomorrow, of course. So I hope Everton wins. That would be club. Yeah, cheer for Everton to do well. The Spanish League started yesterday as well. They start Friday with Rayo Vallecano beating Girona. Villarreal beats Oviedo in the first game back over decades. Barcelona crushed Mallorca. That's not a surprise. Barcelona's good. Alaves beat Levante, and then Valencia Sociedad drew. So today, of course, we have Celta Vigo Getafe. An interesting one. Athletic Club versus Sevilla. That should be good. And of course, my club Espanyol is going to be playing Atletico Madrid. I know Atletico's supposed to be favored to win, but who knows? Anything can happen. So, pretty big stuff going on. That's what's going on today in sports. Not really that much going on here as well. So for next week, we'll be doing our next country, Algeria, for part 3. We'll cover Algeria. And then Sunday, we'll be doing another national park. We'll cover Sequoia on next Sunday. our second national park of the series. So, if you guys look to your top right, top of the chat, you see a pinned comment. Well, this is the pinned comment that will take us to Yellowstone. Here it is, guys. So this here is Yellowstone National Park website. What you can do currently right now, alerts and effects. Biscuit Basin closed due to a hydrothermal explosion that occurred earlier in July. Flood park rivers and streets closed to fishing due to low tides and fire restriction. Yeah, there have been a few fire restriction things going on here at the park. But it'll show you everything about the park, like all the different directions. The lodging will be pretty important, and just the sheer things to do. For example, if you want to do some fishing or hiking, you can definitely do that. Click that, and it'll show you all the different places to hike. Pretty cool stuff. In terms of the other parts of the slideshow, of course, the geography of the park, Yellowstone. Geographically speaking, it's about 63 miles north to south and 54 miles west to east by air. It's over 2.21 million acres in area, which is larger than the states of Rhode Island or Delaware. Big part about this area is it sits above on the Yellowstone Plateau, an average elevation of 8,000 feet above sea level, and is bounded by all sides by the Middle Rocky Mountains, which range from 9,000 to 11,000 feet altitude. The highest point of the park is Eagle Peak at 11,358 feet. Lowest is Race Creek, which is around 5,200 feet. The most prominent summit of the park is actually Mount Washburn. Prominent summit will be. Of course, here's another thing that surprises you. It has one of the world's largest petrified forests, which are trees that were long ago buried by ash and soil and replaced by mineral materials. There's also 3 deep canyons in the park, most notably Lewis Canyon, and of course the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone, which we will be visiting trip. Are mainly the place we're going to visit graphically. We'll be visiting there pretty shortly. I think we'll be heading down here pretty shortly, of course. Here looks pretty nice at this time in Montana, of course. If you look at the scenery here, it would be a beautiful flight in Montana. So tons of stuff. We got hikes. The website also has lots of history stuff at the park. Learn about the park history. Click on that and learn all about the park's history. But yeah, this website is a very, very useful tool to learn more about the park. And there's all sorts of different places to go. amazing stuff to look at during our trip. So, here, guys, waterfall is going to be next. We're going to be we're going to drop down 6,000 feet. Thank you, Typhon. Appreciate it. So we're going to be landing here pretty shortly. Another thing about this park too, to keep in mind here as well, in terms of Yellowstone's geology, Yellowstone is very unique in its geology and stuff. Volcanism is a big part of Yellowstone. In fact, it's believed to an older volcanism of the Snake River. And the park is home to the largest volcanic system in North America, the Yellowstone caldera. It's only rivaled around worldwide by the Lake Toba caldera in Sumatra. And this area has been termed as a supervolcano due to the fact it was formed by especially large explosive eruption. And yes, this area potentially is a volcano. Active spot for a supervolcano. Now, we've been keeping track of this for many years. But apparently the caldera that created Yellowstone in this area was around 1,000 times larger than the eruption of Mount St. Helens. That's what formed a bunch of this national park. Also, in addition to its volcanism, it's also home to many geysers, including the most famous geyser of the park, Old Faithful, located in the upper geyser basin. But you also find other ones as well, including Castle Geyser, Lion Geyser, Grand Geyser, the tallest predictable geyser, Giant Geyser, the most voluminous geyser in the world, and of course the tallest active one, Steamboat. And yes, this park also experiences earthquakes too. Thousands of them, in fact. However, virtually all of them are undetectable to people because, well, really isn't a lot of earthquake. Yes, this is a very active area. Earthquakes. Do be warned. There are definitely lots of them here at the park. Here's guys our first stop here from Portland. Here's our first stop. Yeah, that's a pretty interesting landing course. This is Free Montana. Currently, I think it's built roads and stuff now. But we're just right outside Montana State University in Bozeman. There's our first stop of the day. I think a brief pit stop here. We'll be here for about a minute. If you guys want to join on in, here's our route. And here's our server. Here it is, guys. So we're going to go ahead and prepare for the next leg. We're going to be heading to Gardner Airport for our second stop. We'll take a brief stop here before we visit the park. Here we are, guys. We're going to be flying to Gardner Airport. Take us around another 11 plus about 60 more nautical miles to our next stop. We'll be clawing our way over Yellowstone. In terms of other news, I know Murph's been gone for a bit, so there really isn't too many news to cover. Oh, speaking of which, Cleve 4D has brought Yosemite Valley to life. Oh, that could be useful because we're going to be covering Yosemite in 2 weeks. Our next, it'll be the one after Sequoia would be Yosemite, which would be Yosemite National Park. Well, sad thing is I'm going to be gone next Sunday, the Sunday when we get to do Yosemite, because that is I'll be gone by then. So, but who knows? I may get it back during all that time. I just thought about that. I'll be heading. Sky Simulations have brought the update to their DC-9. Important stuff. Here we go, guys. Preparing for this. So one of the really cool things about Yellowstone, and I think something some people don't talk about, is Yellowstone's flora and fauna. I don't think you can find a finer place in the United States to find some really unique fauna and flora. Of course, there's over 69,000 species of trees and vascular plants native to the park. Another 107 are considered to be exotic species and are non-native. Some of the most well-known things about the flora here at the park is there's over 8 different conifer tree species. The most documented one is the lodgepole pine, which constitutes 80% of all the total forest areas of the park. However, there's other kind of fir and conifers like subalpine fir, Egelman spruce, Rocky Mountain Douglas fir, and white bark pine. The latter being threatened by a fungus known as white pine blister rust. There's also dozens of species of flowering plants. Most bloom between May and September, and the really unique plant found here in Yellowstone, and it's on the picture, the Yellowstone stand verbena, a rare flowering plant. It's closely related to those found in much warmer climates, making this plant a very unique enigma. And there are about 8,000 examples of these rare plants that make home in the sandy soils of Yellowstone Lake. In the hot waters, you can find bacteria forming in these mountains, consisting of trillions of bacteria and some of the most primitive life forms on Earth. Flies and other arthropods also live on the mats, and even during the middle of the bitterly cold winters. But yes, these are hypothermophilic bacteria, by the way. So they thrive in extremely hot climates, hot temperatures. And apparently one unique bacterium found in the park, Thurus aquatus, is actually a very important enzyme for replicating DNA for PCR processing. DNA, which proves for a lot of scientists for diseases and stuff. But of course, the one thing you all guys want to visit Yellowstone is for the fauna, and of course, it is widely known as the finest megafauna wildlife habitat in the contiguous 48 states. You can find over 60 mammal species in the park. Most famously include the Rocky Mountain wolf, coyote, Canadian lynx, cougars, black, and grizzly bears. Also include the bison, elk, moose, mule deer, white-tailed deer, mountain goat, and bighorn sheep. Of course, the Yellowstone Park bison herd is around. Today there's around over 4,000 bison in the park. At one point, however, there used to be around 30 to 60 million people around North America. And the Yellowstone Park bison herd is one of the only free-roaming, genetically pure herds of buffalo in North America. The other three being in Henry Mountains, Utah, Twin Cave National Park, South Dakota, and Elk Island in Alberta. But of course, one very well-known thing about Yellowstone is the wolves. You see, wolf population originally was extirpated from the park in 1914 to protect elk populations for a lot of hunters. A lot of them destroyed a lot of the wolves, prairie dogs, and other animals injurious to agriculture. However, the bad thing about wiping out the wolves is if you wipe out the wolves from the food chain, the elk population will go out of control. And they're originally, so in the 1990s, they actually did a controversial decision at the time. They reintroduced wolves from Canada, were reintroduced into the park. It turns out reintroducing the wolves was really successful. Population remained stable, and there were around 13 wolf packs in 2005, with around 18 individuals in Yellowstone. And right now, there's around 108 wolves in the park. And the good thing about having all those wolves was, it actually kept the elk population in control, thankfully, keeping all of it. There's also black bears are common in the park. There's around only bear black bears mainly in the northern ranges. There's also 700 black grizzly bears living in the Yellowstone. Of course, elk populations are around more than 30,000 elk species. However, it's decreased enormously from the 90s due to the wolf predation, and also the predation, of course, was a big part of it. In addition to all the mammal species, Yellowstone's also home to several species of reptiles, like painted turtles, prairie rattlesnakes, bull snakes, and sagebrush lizards. There's about 311 species of birds been reported, almost half nest in Yellowstone, including bald eagles, whooping cranes, osprey, pelicans, falcons, and trumpeter swans also live around this area. So yes, Yellowstone absolutely is home to all sorts of species. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Wolves don't usually predate on people. That's absolutely correct, Typhon. Wolves are generally just they're more afraid of us than we're afraid of them. Absolutely right, Typhon. You're definitely correct on that. But yeah, the wolf reintroduction has been really, really successful in Yellowstone. In addition, they also worked harder to bring back like the beaver and the prairie dogs as well to park healthy. So, now we're entering into the valley. Here we're entering into the valley, heading over to Yellowstone, of course. With absolutely beautiful conditions here at the park. So, by the way, our next national park is going to be Sequoia, which will be the last park of the series before I head on vacation. But we're going to be traveling to Yellowstone. I'll take the Slim Savage Norden for that one. Get that going through. we're gonna head over to so our next thing about Yellowstone that we're gonna cover is the climate and weather of Yellowstone National Park. So in terms of climate and stuff, it's greatly influenced by altitude. Lower elevations tend to be warmer year-round. The highest temperature recorded in Yellowstone was 900 degrees Fahrenheit in 2002. But the coldest temperature gets really cold, negative 66 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 54 degrees Celsius in 1933. During the summer months of June to early September, daytime highs are around 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit range, while nighttime lows can go below freezing at higher altitudes. Spring and fall temperature between 36 degrees with nights in single digits. Below freezing 0 degrees Celsius. Precipitation is highly variable and ranges from 15 inches near Mammoth Hot Springs to 80 inches around the southwest section of the park. And Yellowstone's greatly influenced by moisture from the Snake River. Tornadoes are rare, but it has happened in the park, funnily enough. In 1987, there was a powerful tornado in Wyoming, touched down in Teton Wilderness, and hit the park. It was an F4 tornado that hit the park, and left a power destruction 1 to 2 miles wide, and leveled nearly 15,000 acres of mature pine forest. And of course, there was also a flooding that caused in 2022 that damaged much of the area around Yellowstone due to a combination of heavy rain and snow melt, causing floods all over that part of Montana. So, yes, there has been cases of extreme weather here at the park. And our last slide before we get to Yellowstone is recreation. So, in terms of recreation, there's a ton to do here at the park. Of course, it's one of the most popular national parks in the country since the 80s. Since late 1960, at least 2 million visitors have toured the park every year. In 2023, 4.5 million people visited the park in 2023, a new record. July is the busiest month in Yellowstone. At peak summer levels, 3,700 employees work at the park concessionaires. They manage 9 hotels and lodges with over 2,200 hotel rooms and cabins, as well as gas stations, stores, and most of the campgrounds. Of course, there's tons of things to do at the park. You can do tour companies that take you through self-guided transports. Some of these can even do snowmobile and snow coach tours. No. Of course, there's tons of things. Some activities include water-related activities like fishing, swimming, and boating in Yellowstone Lake, hiking, climbing, and walking. Camping's also popular here too, with over 2,000 campsites. You can do backcountry camping, but you have to require a permit. Hunting's not permitted, although it's allowed in the surrounding national forest. However, back in the old days, people used to feed the bears and encourage. But of course, there's a problem. If you feed the bears, guess what the bears would think of? That's food. They'll think of us as food, and guess what that means? Yeah, don't feed them. Just don't. Only in Egypt would do. So if you're wondering why we're going to the north the northern entrance in Yellowstone, not like the west or the eastern entrance, the reason is because if we go south, there's also Grand Teton, which is going to get its own part of the series. We're going to go to the northern entrance of the park, to Gardner. Which, by the way, just a little bit of background between Gardner. This has been the it served as the main entrance, to Yellowstone since its creation in 1872. And of course, this national park area is one of the main entrances to the park, so that's why we picked this airport. And of course, on a more notorious note of the park, the entire national park is actually in the jurisdiction of the District Court of Wyoming. But the issue with this area is, problem is, because it's been in 3 different states, there's an area called the Zone of Death, which is a 50 square mile section, which means technically a person can theoretically avoid conviction for a major crime. So there is some stuff to be a little careful about. Yeah. Here we are, guys. Area, guys. This is absolutely stunning. Stunning scenery this morning. The beautiful scenery, guys. If you enjoy this stream and want to support the channel, smash that follow button. Support the channel. Stream 2 days a week here, Fridays and Sundays here. Twitch. Go ahead and turn left. Guys, we're officially made our way over to Yellowstone. Back in the northern. About to reach Gardiner soon. This has been a pretty short trip so far. In terms of the Premier League table, of course, so far, all teams have gotten 3 points. Manchester City, Sunderland, Tottenham, and Liverpool have 3 points. And for 1 point, we have Brighton, Fulham, Villa, and Newcastle. And the rest still haven't either played or been. Here we go, guys. There's our airport down over here. I think that's our airport. Yep, that is our airport. Here it is here, guys. So we'll stop here for just a bit. Welcome to Gardiner Airport. So we're now about ready to head over to Yellowstone at long last. We're going to stop here for a little bit if you guys want to join on in. We have our route and server. Here's also our link up there too as well for the National Park website. So we'll get ready very shortly for the last leg of the stream. Of course, the last leg is the longest one. That covers all of Yellowstone we're going to be checking out here today. all of it. So let's go ahead and get ready for the last leg of the trips. We're gonna go around, I think, 7,500 feet. So the first thing we'll be covering here in our national park thing is Mammoth Hot Springs will be our first waypoint. Go ahead. We're gonna fly around it briefly. So Mammoth Hot Springs, by the way, let me go ahead and get the music. Is Mammoth Hot Springs. This large complex of hot springs located in Yellowstone. It was created over thousands of years ago as hot water from the spring cooled and deposited calcium carbonate. Over 2 tons flow into Mammoth each day due to the huge geographical vents, travertine furnaces, and of course, the hot water feeds Mammoth comes from the North Geyser Basin, traveling underground through a fault line. Over through a fault line. Of course, Terrace Mountain is the largest known carbonate depositing spring in the world, and the most famous feature at the springs is Minerva Terrace. All sorts of mobile terraces that go across the national park. Of the Mammoth Park area, it also exhibits much glacial activity through the Pine glaciation in the summits covered with glacial till. Apparently, the temperature around this is around 170 degrees, and there have been algae that actually live in this area that give it shades of brown, orange, red, and giving it its appearance. We're going to go ahead and go over the Mammoth Hot Springs area here. So this is all Mammoth Hot Springs. Here is Mammoth Hot Springs. Also around this area, this whole structure of buildings here, the park, those structure, that is actually also the Mammoth. This is Fort Yellowstone, by the way, too. So this area all here is Fort Yellowstone. This joins alongside Mammoth Hot Springs, of course. This is Fort Yellowstone, the major fort in this area. They built this by the U.S. Army, built this area back in the old days, back in the 19th century. This is where they did a lot of the park operations and stuff are usually right in this area. Go ahead and head off to our next area here. We'll follow this along for another 14 miles to reach North Basin Geyser. We're gonna make our first link in this lake here. The plane keeps making a buzzing noise. It's probably this engine. It's probably what's causing the noise. Pretty noisy. So So the North Geyser Basin, by the way, the Geyser Basin, is one of the major geothermal areas in the park. It's located in the northwest edge of Yellowstone caldera, and this geyser, by the way, this basin has three major areas: Porcelain Basin, Back Basin, and Hunter Springs Plain. Unlike other geyser basins, the waters from here are actually quite acidic, rather than alkaline. This difference allows for a different class of bacterial thermophiles to live in the geyser basin. And the tallest active geyser in the world is located here, Steamboat Geyser. Steamboat has very erratic and lengthy tidal between major eruptions, and it erupts over 300 feet into the air. So pretty neat little stuff here. We'll make our first lane here. Yeah, if you keep hearing buzzing noise stop on, it's because, well, buzzing because it's the turboprop and all that. It's quite loud. But there are tons of geothermal areas in this park. Tons of them. But yeah, we'll land in this area and we'll walk around in this a bit. Yes, that's one of the new features they added into Flight Sim 2024, but something I really wanted to do here, and I thought this would be a great way. We make our way there. Nice and low over the park. Just look at all this, the scale of this place. Sheer scale of Yellowstone. Absolutely. Here's, guys, this is North Basin. We'll make our landing here for a bit. Cheers, guys. This is North Basin, by the way. This is North Basin. Yes. Now, in real life, this would be really dangerous here. Go ahead and make. Now, in real life, you would never do this, obviously. Of course, there's a flight zombie. This is why I turned off the. Okay, there's our link. Oh, park. And we're going to exit out of the plane. See, this was one of the new things they added back in MSFS 2024, but how cool is this, guys? Looks awesome here. This is I'm walking towards what is Steamboat Geyser. This is the tallest geyser in the park. How cool is that, guys? Man, this is just epic. This is why I want to do the National Park Series, guys, and stuff like this. Yeah, this is around where Steamboat Geyser is located. Go visit this area here. And let's get back to the. This is Steamboat Geyser. All this area here. We're going to go ahead and head up to our next place. Fly over this next place here. And we're off. I know the weather may have picked a little fast for this, but I thought the altitudes and the fact we're going to be stopping, I thought this would be a fun. But I'm really enjoying this. I like the fact I can get out of the plane and explore some of this on the ground, which I think is why I wanted to do this. Man, this scenery is just insane at Yellowstone. Gorgeous in this new Yellowstone is absolutely breathtaking. Looks amazing. this here is National Park Mountain, Firehole Canyon. See some stuff here. Look at this. Wow, that is gorgeous. What a pretty park. What a pretty park that is, Yellowstone. That's gorgeous. Yeah, this is the Terrace area here in the park. Just breathtaking. This is Yellowstone. Massive amounts of place for all of them. If you guys enjoy this series, let me know if you guys are enjoying this or not. I really do enjoy exploring the national parks. Fly for some of it. The next spot we'll be landing, of course, is the Grand Prismatic Spring. We'll be visiting here next. So the Grand Prismatic Spring will be our next stop, and we will also land here as well, by the way. We'll land in this area. This is the largest hot spring in the natural hot spring in the United States. It's the third largest hot spring in the world after Frying Pan Lake in New Zealand and Boiling Lake in Dominica. Grand Prismatic Spring is known by geologists in the Haine Geological Survey and named it for its striking coloration, as its colors include red, orange, yellow, green, and blue. And the first records are from European explorers, one of those being the American Fur Company trappers in 1839. The colors here are actually a result of microbial mats and thermophilic bacteria around the mineral-rich water. And they range from green to red, and it depends on the ratio of chlorophyll to carotenoids and the temperature gradient of the runoff. In the summer, it typically tends to be orange or red, while in the winter, the mats are usually dark green. And the structure is around 307 feet in diameter in 160. And the discharge estimate of 560 gallons of water of 160 degrees of water temperature of water per minute. Very, very cool natural feature. Yes. Take a picture of it when we get to fly over it. Take a picture from above. I'm going to take a picture of this thing from above, and then we'll land. And get a little bit of a closer. Like I said, we briefly just do these landings, take a look at the area. I don't want to make them take forever, of course, unless I really want to. And I know I've probably taken a plane that's a little fast for this trip, being the Draco, but like I said, we were dealing with altitude. It's mainly for the parks that have really high altitude. Such. Grand Prismatic Spring. There she is. And by the way, I post these all in the Discord. You should check out the Exploring America's National Parks page on the Discord. And we'll land in one of these areas here. You can get too close to this area, but huh, not bad. Stop right in the spot. There it is. So this here is the Grand Prismatic Spring. Maybe I should have gone up for a better view. Maybe land from one of the up elevators. Yeah, up here would work. Right here. Right here would be perfect. There we go. Oh, look at that. Oh. That is gorgeous. Oh, man. That is fantastic. Look at that for a view. Oh, that's just gorgeous. So, guys, this is the Grand Prismatic Spring here. And that looks good. Does that look good, cool guys? Right there. Ah, she's a breathtaker, man. That's just what a view. Go ahead and prepare for the next place. Next stop, we'll be checking out Imperial Geyser, and we'll make our way over to Old Faithful. We'll make another landing here. And we're getting these pictures, man. This is Imperial Geyser coming up. We're heading over to So our next stop is going to be Old Faithful, probably the most famous natural feature in the park. Old Faithful. Now, this cone geyser is named in 1870 during the Washburn-Langford-Doane expedition and was the first geyser in the park to be named. And it's thanks to the fact that it's a very predictable geothermal feature and has erupted every 44 minutes to 2 hours since 2000. The geyser and its nearby inn are part of the Old Faithful Historic District. They're part of the National Historic District. And this geyser can erupt up to 106 to 185 feet height. And they can shoot up to between 3,700 to 8,400 US gallons of water. And it lasts mainly from 1.5 to 5 minutes. And more than a million eruptions have been recorded of Old Faithful erupting in Yellowstone recorded began. It's not the tallest or largest geyser in the park, but it is definitely the most famous one of all. So, pretty cool stuff, and people love visiting Old Faithful. Okay, here it is. Wait, maybe we can see if we can catch Old Faithful erupting during this time. Maybe I can grab a bit of a screenshot for that. Okay. Yes. Oh, we missed it! Well, balls, at least she'll erupt again. See, this is why we... Ah, there she is, Old Faithful. Isn't that incredible? And there's the inn, too. There's Old Faithful. Old Faithful, and there's the... How cool is that, guys? Old Faithful, and there's the inn as well, but also a PUI landmark. There's she erupting. So we're going to go ahead and take off here very shortly. Go ahead and get back into the air. So what do you guys think about this? It's pretty fun. I know it can be a little hard landing this thing sometimes because of its turbo prop. So we're going to be covering Yellowstone Lake next. We'll be flying over that pretty soon. Yellowstone Lake is actually the largest body of water in the state of Wyoming and the largest in the park. It's 77 feet above sea level and covers an area of 136 square miles with 110 miles of shoreline. While the average depth of the lake is 139 feet, its greatest depth is around 394 feet, and it's the largest freshwater lake in North America that's above 7,000 feet above sea level. In winter, ice nearly 3 feet covers much of the lake except the shallow water near the hot springs. It can remain frozen until late May or early June. There have been proposals to dam the lake in the past, but there's been a lot of controversy with that. But you can find all sorts of different fish species, mainly cutthroat trout. Longnose sucker is one of the invasive species. Now, if you go further south in this area, if you keep going further south, you get Grand Teton National Park. Now, of course, that's why we didn't arrive from the south, but we'll be visiting Grand Teton another time. Just not today. Angling for cutthroat trout has been a popular pastime for both the first explorer and tourists in the park. We're going to actually get a bit of a pit stop. We're going to visit Mount Washburn next. We'll just fly over Mount Sheridan for a bit, just get a view of the lake. We'll have another stop there, take a few pictures, of course, and see what it looks like from out there. We'll fly over the lake. And then we'll make our way over to Inspiration Point and check out the lower falls and lookout. So this is about Moose Falls, and that's the southern edge of the park. Yeah, we can see Grand Teton from here, and trust me, we'll get to plenty of opportunities in Grand Teton. But we'll do that another time. We'll be back. For just about 80 nautical miles, I guess I'll refuel after we get to the top of Mount Sheridan. I'll go ahead and get a thing to fuel. Of course, I'll refuel, And we'll be prepared for the next absolutely gorgeous. Yellowstone, amazing today. So Mount Sheridan and Yellowstone Lake. And I'm gonna go ahead and fill this thing back. I'm gonna fill it back to 50. Okay, just refill back to 50%. we're going to go ahead and turn left here pretty soon. Yellowstone Lake, and it's absolutely huge. Huge lake. So our next, I think our next landmark here, it's actually two landmarks in one. First, we'll be checking out Yellowstone Falls. So Yellowstone Falls is the two major waterfalls of the Yellowstone River within Yellowstone National Park. As the Yellowstone River flows north from Yellowstone Lake, the Hayden Valley plunges into the upper falls of Yellowstone River. Then 40 miles downstream of the Yellowstone River, where it enters the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone. The upper falls is about 109 feet high. The lower falls is the large volume waterfall in the Rocky Mountains, about 308 feet, which is twice as high as that as Niagara. And native tribes knew about this fall for centuries. Of course, people didn't really believe it at first. And there are many places to view the falls today. So, but basically, and then of course around this area is the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. The first large canyon of the Yellowstone River, downstream from Yellowstone Falls. It's about 800 to 1,200 feet deep and about a quarter to 3/4 of a mile wide. People knew about this area since the 1870s. While the geology of this is not understood, much of this is resulted from the glaciation and combined erosion of the Yellowstone River, not by glaciation. Compared to many of our canyons. So, we'll be visiting these two very shortly. And these are the last two slides. We'll stop here. We'll take a brief stop in here for a bit. We'll stop at the lower falls since it is technically much bigger than the upper one. So we took some amazing screenshots. If you guys are enjoying the stream and want to support the channel, smash the follow button, support the channel. We stream 2 days a week. We're here to mainly explore the national parks on Sunday. This has been absolutely gorgeous national park. Like I said, we'll be doing this for multiple other national parks. We'll be doing these stops as well. For example, in Sequoia, we'll maybe stop near Mount Whitney, take some pictures of that, and just explore the wilderness a bit. It's always been more of a backcountry, some of the other stuff. This is Hayden Valley, by the way. You can find a lot of the bison herd and stuff here in Hayden Valley. Here. Well, we're going to take a look at the North Yellowstone, so we'll stop here for about a minute. For see what the falls of Yellowstone look like. Wow, look at this. Ooh, look at that. Wow. Holy moly, that's amazing. That's the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. My oh my, what a view. Let's go ahead and get this back in the air for a bit. Go ahead and explore what it looks like. Ah, brink of the lower falls. Right there. Oh, look at that. Look at the fall. Oh my lord, that's pretty. Unmistakably gorgeous. See, that is the lower falls of Yellowstone. Twice as high as Niagara Falls. Unbelievable. Man, that's we're going to go to the most topographically prominent part of the national park, Mount Washburn. We'll take a brief stop up here. Man, what a view. What an absolute. Let's make a stop at Mount Washburn for a bit. There's an observation post by the top of Mount Washburn. We'll stop. And look at the view. Wow. Just absolutely insane. There's the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone. Here's all the different mountains. That is absolutely breathtaking. See, this is why I do this series, guys. Now we enter more of the canyons and stuff of the river. So more river valleys, and then we'll make our way over to our last stop at Gardner. That will be our last stop coming up, guys. I think that's the last major landmark we'll be landing here before we make our final stop at the Gardner. But man, this has been an absolute blast. Well, I love it. What a blast. It's been a lot. So that's it, everyone. I hope you all enjoy this flight. We'll be hitting a couple more landmarks. So this is the Devil's Den area of home to Tower Fall. And this is where you find the Yellowstone River overlook. Absolutely. So guys, I'll be back in just a minute. I gotta take a quick bow break. I'll be right back in just Well, I'm back. Let's go ahead and make our way back to Gardner, where we all started this journey. So, here we are, guys. Well, we got to get ready to go for our last stop. Through Yellowstone River. Gardner Airport should be coming up very shortly, just about 7 miles, and we'll wrap up this. So we'll see who's there we can raid. Kahara's on here. Ford's here too. and stop. Guys, that is it on our journey, everyone. Welcome back to Gardner Airport. So, guys, I hope you all are having a great Sunday. I hope you guys enjoyed the street. This was an absolutely blast of a street. Visit so many of the beautiful national parks in so many beautiful areas in this national park. Yellowstone's an absolute. So we'll be back on Friday. This would be my last week of streaming until I think the second to last week of streaming until I'm gone. Our next stream will be on Friday the 22nd. We'll be covering the country of Algeria next on the series. So we'll see you guys there. We're gonna go and say hello to NorCal. He's actually in Wyoming as we speak. So this actually works out for us. He's also in Wyoming. So thank you guys so much, and we'll see you all again soon. Take care, everyone, and have a great rest of your weekend. Goodbye.